Hello everyone, welcome to Hanging Pawns, I'm Stjepan. Today I'm gonna analyze a game played between Levan Aronian and Sethuraman from the Trade Gibraltar tournament, which just finished last month. It was a very exciting English opening with many instructional moments and a few interesting ideas that players who play the English or face the English could implement into their own games. After all, Aronian is the king of 1c4 at the moment, so his games should be dissected by any English opening player. Aronian was white and he opened with c4. We have e6, Sethuraman plays the Agincourt defense, g3, d5 and bishop g2. This game went the other way, but there's an often played line in this position with d4 by black after bishop g2, and I think it's worth studying for English defense players. It might be worth to check out the game between Paul Keres and Mikhail Botvinnik played in 1948 in their World Championship match. I'll leave a link to it in the description. Sethuraman plays knight f6, Aronian plays knight f3, and if you're wondering why can't black just grab the c-pawn and white doesn't defend it, you'll soon see. This is a common theoretical line seen in many GM games. Now Sethuraman takes with d takes c4, and we have queen a4. White regains the pawn by checking and taking back on c4. Bishop d7, developing and gaining a tempo on the queen, one of many to follow in this game with Aronian's queen. Queen takes c4, c5. c5 is not that common. Usually bishop to c6, knight to c6 or bishop to d6 is played in this position, developing a piece, and perhaps with a good reason, since c5 is weakening the diagonal a bit and enhancing white's g2 bishop. It's also a smart idea generally to develop and castle before opening the position up further. Aronian plays knight e5 immediately, threatening the b7 pawn, exploiting the weakness of Sethuraman's last move. So just making his bishop a monster on the h1a diagonal. We have queen c8 defending the b7 pawn, and queen d3, a move I can't really understand and that engines don't understand either. Aronian blocked his own bishop and lost the development tempo for no clear purpose or benefit, and just moved his queen for the third time. Sethuraman develops with knight c6 and challenges the knight on e5. Aronian grabs the bishop pair with knight takes d7, we have knight takes d7, knight to c3 finally developing, and bishop e7 preparing to castle. Here Aronian plays queen to b5, another queen move breaking the opening principle of not moving the same piece twice, or in this case several times instead of castling, and another move which doesn't really make that much sense. We have a6, giving black a tempo move for no purpose, and it could be debated whether a6 was a useful tempo for Sethuraman, but it's still a free move. Queen a4, another queen move, and knight d4. Beautiful centralized knight, which is eyeing the c2 weakness, which is often weak in the English opening, and it's highlighted here by white's king still being in the center. Here Aronian finally castles, Sethuraman castles as well. We have d3, opening up the black squared bishop, knight to b6, another tempo on the queen, and queen d1. This is the fifth time the queen moved, and surely he could have done something more useful with the lost time. Rook to d8, developing the rook on a semi-open file, bishop to d2, queen to d7, rook to c1, threatening the c5 pawn if the knight should move, rook a to c8, and b3. Stopping the b6 knight from entering the game by blocking the a4 and c4 squares, which is always, this is really instructional, because you should always look for ways to stop your opponent's pieces from entering the squares they would like to enter. We have h6, making luft and making the king a bit safer, and king h1, a very grandmaster-like move, which you wouldn't see from weaker players. It emphasizes safety above all else, which isn't always the case in Aronian's hyper-aggressive English games, but in this one it was, preventing any tactics the knight could create on the e2 square and moving the king from the g1 a7 diagonal, so that the f4 move could eventually be played safely, or more safely than in this position. We have knight to d5, challenging the c3 knight, and knight takes, e takes, and d3. Trying to disrupt white's central control and making the black knight move. Knight moves to c6, and we have queen h5. Another queen move, but this time at least with the purpose, it's getting the queen nearer to Sethuraman's king and starting an attack. Queen to d6, getting the queen into the defense. We have f4, an aggressive move by Aronian, and a5. Here Sethuraman is seeking counterplay on the queen side, and he's trying to eventually create a passed pawn, or at least create a distraction which might slow Aronian down on the king side. a4 by Aronian, an important move, slowing black down because it would now take him 2 tempi to continue his pawn push. Rook to b8, preparing b5, and d4, opening up the center, activating his 2 sleeping bishops with one move. So yeah, definitely a great move. We have d takes e4, of course not d takes e4 because the d2 bishop is hanging. Bishop takes e4, b6, not b5, I don't really know why. And g4, a hyper-aggressive Aronian style move, preparing to open black up without too much caution, really. The position is equal, but white has an attack. Knight to d4, threatening the b3 pawn, and Aronian ignores it. He plays bishop to c3, not caring about the pawn, and for good reason, because black absolutely can't afford to take it. Aronian's bishops are staring menacingly at the black king, and a strong attack would become overwhelming in just a few moves if black isn't careful. Sethuraman plays f5 instead, and it's a great dynamic move, stopping Aronian's pawns from advancing easily. Just an example, if after bishop to c3 he would have taken he had taken the b3 pawn, white could just simply play bishop to e5, gaining a tempo on the queen, and let's say the queen moves to d7. We would have g5, and this is completely busted for black. White is just crushing him on the king side. But yeah, he played f5, and Aronian responds with g takes f5. Sethuraman plays bishop f6, and rook to g1. The position is equal in theory, and an engine would say it was equal, but practically I'd be afraid to play black here. After rook g1, Sethuraman should have moved his king off the g-file with king h8 or king f8. Instead, he played a move I don't really see why he played it. He played rook to e8, just allowing a simple tactic with queen takes h6, and after which this is completely winning for Aronian. I don't know what he was thinking. Perhaps he was trying to activate his pieces and not mind about the h6 pawn, but the attack is just too strong with the rook on g1. We have rook b to d8, rook c to e1, getting his last piece into the attack, rook e7, rook to e3, preparing rook h3, rook g3, just crushing black. And here Sethuraman actually resigned. I mean, there's no immediate win or way to gain more material right now, but Aronian is a pawn up and has a crushing attack, and he'll soon get his rook to h3, and the king will be forced to take a dangerous walk to the center, which is covered by white's bishops anyway. Perhaps he could have lasted 10 or 15 more moves, but an eventual loss was inevitable, so he saw it and just decided to resign like a gentleman. If you'd like to analyze more games in this line, you can check out the games by the Armenian GM Rafael Vaganyan, or the games of the German GM Michael Betzold. I hope you got something from this game and Levon Aronian's approach for gaining the initiative in seemingly equal positions, which he is very well known for. He often manages to create a deadly attack very often, and he does it in a way which seems to surprise his opponents, even if they are really strong. Sethuraman is a strong GM. He's rated above 2650, and he just fell without a fight as soon as Aronian decided it was time to crush him. It's actually pretty funny. And in many Aronian's games, his opponents seem just surprised and defenseless. If you play the English, or if you want to become more aggressive in your chess and learn how to convert your advantage into a winning attack, definitely analyze some more of his games, and you will surely get a lot of ideas from him. He's one of the best players you can learn that from. Anyway, thanks for watching this analysis on hanging pawns, and cheers everybody. Goodbye, see you later.